Oh, that's the wrong monitor. No, it's not. It's the right monitor. Okay, cool. Hey, I'm Weather from the Summersol Discord, and today I'm going to be walking through a game of Kogmaw versus Misfortune. At the start of every game, I like going over win conditions. I think it's a really important thing to start to develop a concept of, and it's something that you generally know whenever you have like a better team comp or what's a meta pick or whatever. But it doesn't mean you necessarily, as a whole, you as the generic you, know how to play to your own team comp and your win condition and how you can respond to your enemy's win condition. So I feel like it's good to kind of rehearse this, and I do this at the start of every review. So looking at your team comp first, you have a Trendemir top lane who is pretty much just going to want to split push the entire game. That's a nature of it, and that you know that's what's going to happen. So in the ideal scenario, he manages to pull Scion and keep Scion in that lane. But inevitably, he's probably going to get outscaled. If he takes away the game early, that's great, but he's probably going to get outscaled in that specific type of lane. The best thing that could happen for them then is to have the Scion go to teamfight while the Trendemir backdoors, takes turrets while the Scion's trying to teamfight and take advantage of his better teamfighting potential. And if that happens, then the Trendemir can really shine. Um, so the jungle matchup now is Sejuani. Sejuani's a great team fighting champion, has a pretty reasonable amount of pressure early, a lot of crowd control, okay amount of damage, okay clear, standard stuff, right? And the enemy jungle has a Vi. So in this early game jungle matchup, the Sejuani can get off more consistent ganks than the Vi can. Vi pretty much only has one gank, and that's whenever she flashes. Otherwise, you're playing way too far up whenever the jungler's on that side of the map. There should be no easy way for her to force a gank unless she uses flash pre-6. But even after 6, she has a gank window of every time her ultimate's up or every time she has flash. So it's still something that you can play around. In your mid matchup, you should have a lot more wave control with the Xerath, but eventually this is probably going to turn into a side lane Yasuo, which you're going to have trouble dealing with if this comes to your lane. So specifically in this type of matchup, this is going to focus a little bit more on you. Because the Xerath might win lane, might lose lane, but the Yasuo is ultimately probably not going to want to just sit mid. Misfortune will more likely be the one ending up sitting mid. And the Yasuo is going to be looking to kill you in the side lane. But your team has much better wave control, and your Xerath should be able to respond to pressure first. He also should be better for sieging, but he's only going to be better for sieging if you can deal with split push. Now, in the scenario where Yasuo matches up against the Tryndamere, that's a pretty good scenario, and that would be pretty good for the Tryndamere and both the Yasuo. That's really kind of up in the air. But if that's the case, then the Tryndamere is not going to be doing what he wants to win his lane, but is then playing to the game's win conditions. See, if you know your champion, and you know what they want to do, you know the team, that doesn't necessarily adapt to what the enemy's win condition is. Because the Yasuo is going to be going to a side lane, so then it's going to have to be, how does the Tryndamere deal with two side lanes that want to push? And he's going to more likely want to pick to split against the Yasuo. And the Scion's then going to either be able to choose the team fight or choose to keep pushing. Now finally into your lane. Now in your lane, you are playing Kogmaw and Nami into a Misfortune Janna. So your lanes both have a lot of poke, but you do it differently. And the way that you guys chose your runes tells me that your supports are both going to be playing very aggressive, but the Misfortune is playing kind of to scale. With Dark Harvest, for example, that's not something you take in lane because it takes a long time to be useful. The nature of this means your lane should have more sustain, especially early. And the nature of that, like a Kogmaw trade versus a Misfortune trade, Kogmaw needs to get off his autos, which is very important for you to be managing your W and how you get into those trades. The Misfortune wants to be playing to her Q, which is going to go through minions. So you need to be watching out where you're standing in the minion wave. You need to be conscious of where the Janna is going if she builds the Harass Janna, which she probably is, which is just going to try and W and auto you all the time. But you do have a Nami to be backing you up while they don't have any form of sustain. You have Fleet Footwork and a Nami, so you have a lot more sustain in this lane, and you should be able to look for these trades early and take advantage of them in the middle of the pre-6 laning phase. Um, you also, as I said, don't really have to worry too much about a Vi gank because she's probably going to be looking to 6. She only has her flash to gank, and she's probably going to use that somewhere else. Um, but we'll talk about that too as it kind of comes up. So I like your habit of getting out early, but this is a little bit bad to be coming up here. The point of getting out here early is to provide necessary vision to prevent invades or to invade with your team. If you're trying to provide vision, standing over here with your team is not providing any extra vision. And if the enemy does come to phase check this, there's probably going to be 5 of them, which means you don't want to fight that anyway. So you're not going to fight them over here, and you're not providing any extra vision. What you could do is you could be standing down here. Especially with this lane, it's not going to have something that's necessarily going to be able to catch and kill you. So you could be able to provide enough vision and walk out easily if you spot them while warding the tri-brush behind you. This is a very simple and very effective way to help your team before the game even starts. This is very important too. You don't need to be doing this. The odds of finding something exactly like this is extremely small. While they could have invaded behind you guys and walked out behind you and then flanked you with more opportunity, with more of a chance. And it's all these everything I'm going to tell you this game about, like tracking junglers and when to trade and stuff like that, is all based under what would work most times, because effectively to climb you only need above a 50% win rate. And if all of your choices have better than 50% chance of working out, then it's probably a good play to make. You can't play perfect, but you can play towards the odds whenever they're in your favor. So whenever someone tries something cheeky, whenever someone does something, whenever it doesn't work out, maybe you get outplayed. Those things kind of you can't really help, but you can make it so you have better chances to win them. So what I'm seeing at the start of this lane is already really bad. You come to lane, and there's several things happening here that are bad. And I'm going to go into all of them individually while explaining kind of the whole of bot lane. So whenever you're looking to trade with someone, you have specific windows to trade. The windows that you can very easily look for is, firstly, positioning. Your Nami's not really in a position to help you, for starters, because you're playing towards the top of this minion wave, while you could be playing towards the bottom where she'd be more capable of helping you, but she's still kind of in a bad spot. But they don't know that necessarily because she's in bushes. Their team probably, they don't have vision of this right now. However, with how far you're playing over here, their team could harass you for free. Just because 2 versus 1 is how you can get more damage and a better trade. 2 people being able to attack 1 person while someone else is too far away. Now, this is partially, again, your Nami, but you can make this better for yourself by playing closer to her. This is something you need to be aware of. Your positioning in lane isn't limited to making sure you can't get queued by misfortune, but also standing next to your support. So the second thing that's problematic with this is you W as soon as you come to the lane. And whenever you're looking into another very important and very easy way to trade on someone is whenever their cooldowns are down. Think about whenever Alistar uses his combo. If he just fucking used his combo on a minion, it'd be a free trade. You'd get damage on him because he can't do anything to you, right? You know you win that scenario. It's obvious. In this scenario where you use your W to get these last hits, you didn't even guarantee yourself these last hits any better than you would have got them anyways. So the nature of this means you wasted a cooldown, which puts you in a position that you could get traded on. And if you can get traded on, then you're putting yourself in positions to lose your lane. There's already 2 of these situations taking place. How you're using your abilities and where you're positioning. So now we're going to continue. Okay. You're standing in a really risky spot. You do step up just enough to avoid that Q, but you need to be standing more to the side of your minions. And since you have this warded, standing towards the bottom over here would be very effective right next to your Nami. You're also not rushing level 2. This means that you're not aiming for a level 2 power spike, or you're trying to manage your wave. Now, in this game, you're not necessarily going to be doing anything to manage your wave at this point in time, so you're putting yourself in a position to get out-leveled and engaged on. Because a third situation where you give an advantage so far is levels. In the same context of an Alistar using his full combo on a minion, if he's level 1, he doesn't have his full combo, so he doesn't have as much of a threat. It's obvious, right? But in order to prevent this window from happening, you need to auto minions. And in this time frame, pay attention to how little you are autoing these minions. Not autoing, auto once. Not autoing, auto... Not autoing, not autoing. Look how the Misfortune's autoing this whole time. She's pushing the wave. So you are making it so that way you are guaranteed to not hit level 2 first. Just look at the minions' health bars, right? She's got 2 melee minions that are half health already. And yours are all basically full health, right? So you're at you just can't contest this level 2 anymore even. Yeah, and I've already commented on it, so I'm not going to rail into it too hard, but your positioning with respect to Misfortune's Q is not very good. And now they're level 2, and you're playing back. This is a very good habit, but you're probably too used to giving up level 2, which means that you're used to playing back after they hit level 2. You don't need to be giving them level 2, especially in this lane that you should be winning. They have a better poke lane, but they do not have a better sustain lane. Because of that, you will eventually outpoke them, especially with sustained trades. If you get off 2 autos against Misfortune, you're already better off, especially if you have your W active. But you're not even really attempting to trade so far. Your Nami really is. Let's look how this Misfortune did get this health damage. Yeah, it's the Nami that's winning this lane right now. And you need to contribute to this harass. You need to be doing something to that too. So far, you've just been CSing, which is okay, but that's not how you're going to win a lane. So you also do have a ward. Whenever this happens and your wave is getting pushed in and you're going to be pushed in for a while, you should probably consider warding this. That way your Nami doesn't have to stand up here, and she's only doing this to provide vision. This will allow you both to play much safer. Also, you're going to lose your opportunity to potentially ward this depending upon how they manage the wave. And if you're paying attention to jungle clears, the jungle is not going to be down here for probably another minute. But this is a time that you could secure this lane still. You're not going to need your ward up here for another minute. And in a minute, Nami's going to have hers, right? So you can ward this, and then Nami later can ward for the Vi, so you don't really have to save your ward for anything. There's no reason to hold on to it like this. Okay, and I'm also going to go very briefly into kind of jungle tracking. It's something that isn't super duper duper important bottom because you have 2 people who can do it. But if you can do it by yourself, since especially you're playing like AD, which has to manage the wave, it's a good idea to start learning where the jungler should be. So a standard clear for the jungler takes about 3 minutes to 3.5 minutes to get top and finish their buff, depending upon which jungler they are. If they're doing an extended clear, like maybe they're a Kayn, then they clear it around 4 minutes. So this means that if you don't see them mid or if you don't see them bottom by like 4 minutes, they're probably done. They're recalling and they're coming down to the other side of the map because they've already cleared in the other direction. So at this point, you see where the Vi is? She's already done her clear, and now she's looking for something on the other side of the map. She might have even reverse cleared. I'm not super sure. But 4 minutes is whenever you'd start to needing to be careful. This is kind of an early gank, and I don't know if that's yours. No, that's not yours. That's the Nami's. You have 2 wards. You need to get better at warding. The Nami didn't necessarily need to ward this because the Vi would have had to have dove you guys with the way that this wave is working out, but it was still convenient to track the Vi. Yeah, your lane as a whole definitely needs a lot of work. You haven't attempted to trade on them at all unless the Nami lands something. Um, and the only way you're getting these kills is by the Nami and their mistakes. Um, so you definitely need to worry about harassing. You should not rely entirely on your support. You don't need to do that. Your Nami is doing a lot of work for you, but you cannot rely on that. I like her name. Okay, so let's go into like kind of wave management. This wave is going to push, but it's going to push kind of slowly. It's probably going to hit another wave around here. And look where they are. They could freeze this wave on you really easily. And if you're looking for a time to recall, then this really isn't a very good time to recall. You probably needed to push in one more wave, and since you did not, see how the Nami even kind of does try and push this for you? You're making this potentially really bad for you whenever you get back. And you signal her to fall back because you know that they're almost here. However, look how many autos that would have taken for you to push this in. 4? 5? Maybe? It wouldn't have taken much effort for you to push that in. Okay, so if you're paying attention to jungle timers, I'm going to tell you a very sneaky way of knowing where the jungler is. These little icons on the minimap. Whenever you see this up, you know that the Vi started on the other side of the map, so her clear started red because this is the one that's coming up first, but this also means the Vi is playing around this side of the map because she wants to be where her buff is. So right now is very safe for you, but in a minute and a half, it's going to be dangerous for you. You need to be paying attention to these windows so you can manage your wave. This wave needs to be under your tower by the time Vi gets here because she's going to have ult and she will kill you. The way that her clear is tells me she wants to kill you. Otherwise, she's going to go mid, which is always an option. But yeah, this is always an option. But that's still going to put her on the side of the map with more options. You and the Xerath. I'm not sure how much of this is you. Ooh. See how easily you win extended trades? Just to point this out. That's a great example. Look at this again. And see how much damage you do as Kogmaw, right? And look how much damage you took. And Nami can heal you. You could have been doing this the entire laning phase. The entire laning phase. And the only thing that's changed so far is you got confidence from a kill. You shouldn't need to wait for this advantage because your Nami's not always going to create this advantage for you. You need to be able to do this yourself. And you just made the Janna incapable of playing up. Because now she's just going to die if she tries to trade with you. You do see the Yasuo, but it's too late. You're dead. I don't see how you get out of this. Yeah. I would not have expected the Yasuo to be down here, and I also would not have expected the Vi to be down here yet because I would have imagined she's clearing her blue buff around now, which she's not even doing that. She's clearing Krugs, but I would have expected her to be on blue buff. So I would have still probably done the same thing that you ended up doing there, which would have ultimately ended in my death. So that's not super bad. It's unfortunate for you, but it's not your fault necessarily. If you did have flash, I would have flashed sooner, but like that's all I really can say. Yeah, I mean, I would have flashed, but you wouldn't have gotten anything because you would have had to have left after that wave anyway, like after they basically killed you anyways. So, all in all, not really that bad. Okay. So Vi's probably bottom around now. You just spotted Vi. A lot of stuff is happening up here. A lot of stuff is happening, and you're not paying attention for a while. Um, as soon as you see Vi up here, right, I would have started walking up here. I would have assumed that this meant that they were trying to do dragon, and you already have wave priority. This is going to push to them. There's no reason for you to need to stay unless you're just trying to get this cannon, but you could still be kiting up this whole time. By doing this, it means you're not watching the map. After this, you even wait until your Nami leaves, and you're pinging Mia, or your Nami's pinging Mia, and then your Nami catches a misfortune. If you were paying attention and you walked up with your Nami, you would have killed this misfortune. She has no flash, and it's a free kill. Instead, your Nami's in a very bad spot now. Now it's too late for you to get involved. You had your time. You're not reacting soon enough. You're not paying attention to the minimap. And if you are paying attention to the minimap and you just decided not to go, that means you aren't considering what they could have done or considering what kind of position you are in to roam. You already had wave priority. Bot lane was not there, which means that they were probably doing dragon even though they weren't. And you chose to let your Nami go by herself whenever you didn't know where they all were. And you let pretty much all three of you die. Ultimately, you could have caught the misfortune before any of that happened, and the Sejuani died to the misfortune ult. So this is a very interesting ward, it's a good ward. It's a good ward, but it's also very kind of situation dependent. I would say that this ward, this game, is like kind of mediocre. This ward is specifically to catch either divers or aggressive roamers. If they're going to go into your jungle like this, it's either going to be someone like a Zac who's going to dive you, or it's going to be someone like an Udyr who's invading, or it's going to be someone like a Twisted Fate who plans on porting bottom, right? All of those situations are whenever you'd kind of want this ward. You're playing, however, against a Vi who's more likely even going to come through lane than anything else, and a Yasuo who shouldn't really be taking this path down to roam. Xerath should have priority on this lane. Now, since Yasuo has already come bottom once, maybe it's a little bit better, but overall, I would say this ward is kind of unnecessary. I would have put it further to where the Nami was. This would have given you a better idea of when the Yasuo is roaming still, because it would catch him on the river path, right? If that's what you're scared of. Catch him if he comes this way and then goes up, which is what your ward would see anyways. But you still have your tower to see if he's coming this way, right? So the only thing that this catches out differently is very aggressive roamers who are going to be able to walk like this, or people who are going to aggressively invade. And if you think this ward is not worth it because they're going to kill it, that means it's going to fucking see someone, which means it's worth it. Considering, though, that's pretty much like your first time warding, not too bad. You need to make sure you E sooner. You let her walk away there. You could have gotten an extra probably 2 autos off if you E'd right away. Your positioning in the wave is not good. And again, you let this push in. You really don't have any wave priority, or you don't take advantage of the lane you have. Right now, Vi should be top lane. See? Top lane. Her camp spawning, which means that this is a 2v2, perfectly 2v2. And if it's perfectly 2v2, you guys will out-sustain. But you constantly let this come in. If you constantly let this come in, it's going to put them in a position where they can do objectives, where they can rotate, where they can respond first, or where they can eventually chip down your tower. These are all things that ultimately lose your team the game. You might not feel like it's really like, oh, I lost lane, because, like, yeah, you didn't feed. Great, you didn't feed. But you weren't in a position to help your team, which is extremely important. Because if you lose games, you don't know why, being able to react and watching the minimap and reacting is a huge reason why you lose games. this type of behavior is if they are either really, really aggressive or the jungler's down here. You don't need to let these waves push into you like this. And you don't have a lane that's really weak. Your lane is incredibly strong. In solo queue, I believe Kogma has like the highest win rate of AD carries pre like 25 minutes or something like that. He has a very strong lane. Kogma is a very good champion. And you need to be able to play like that. If you're saying like, "Oh, I'm just going to outscale," then, great, but if you've already lost the game due to other things, you're not going to outscale. You're already as a team like 3k behind. Doesn't matter if you outscale if you don't get to scale. You react very slowly to this gank. You still get it. You don't watch the minimap. I can tell that very clearly. Yeah, I would have really stayed for that turret anyways. You probably weren't going to be able to get it. Do you see how strong your lanes are? I mean, yeah, you have Gwynsu's now, but you just mop the floor with these guys. Kill the ward you're standing on. Don't wait in a bush that's warded. Don't stand that far behind your team. You let yourself get caught there very easily. You aren't paying attention. You've got to pay attention. Because you died there, instead of getting the team fight you were looking for, you ended up having 3 people die and losing 2 turrets. Oh, no, Xerath came back. 1 turret. That's a really aggressive play. You don't have any advantage on the map right now to go and siege this. There's no advantage. This wave, if you're waiting, okay, let's go into this. This is great. So, one win do you siege, right? You've got a team that's got a Xerath, right? Great siege potential. You got a Kog'Maw for longer range. Sure, if you want to auto the turret with it, great. Yeah, sure. And you got a Sejuani who's like a tank. Yeah, you got a great team fight, so they can't really team fight you whenever you're doing this, right? No, that's not when. That may be a condition to siege. Maybe your team does have good siege, but there is no real advantage. And what do I mean by that? Well, yes, the Scion's low right now. Yes, but there's no reason for their entire team to not be here. Do you see where the Yasuo is? Right? Yeah, okay, great. See where the Vi is? Their whole team has a reason to be here because there's nothing else on the map that's happening. Right? this wave isn't going to crash for another minute to 2 minutes. This wave isn't going to crash for another minute to 2 minutes. There's nothing for them to react to, so they're all here. If you're going to siege, you need to wait for these waves to crash, to wait for them to draw people away, so that way you have a numbers advantage to siege. Make it so that way they cannot contest you. Not make it so that way, oh, we have a better teamfight or a better siege, so we can just do it. Wait until you have a map advantage. Right now, there is no map advantage. And you suffer the consequences of that. You try and push as 4 when they have 4 people on the map. Yasuo's not going down, but Sion has TP. He can TP back. And now you've blown flashes, and now you're waiting for these waves that you were waiting for anyways, right? This wave isn't going to actually push to them. It's going to push to you guys. Not paying attention to the map. Sion comes in with TP. You stand way too far up in general, but you also don't set up any kind of map control. This bottom wave management is your job. And what you should be trying to do at this point in the game is create a situation where their team wants to be bottom and your team can do Baron. Create a situation where their team wants to be bottom and you can take top turret for free. What happens whenever you guys just ARAM like this, which is a problem in lower elo, whenever people just go mid and they're looking for team fights, right? They just go mid. You're flipping a coin, because this can happen and it benefits you, this can happen and it benefits them, and there's no advantage, so it's a 50-50. It's flipping a coin. And you know how I said that you want to choose things that are going to have a greater chance of success, right? It's going to be creating situations where you have a man advantage, where the chances of you winning that fight if they go in on you is greater. It's a really simple concept, but it's something that a lot of people don't get because they just look for the team fight. That's a win condition, right? Yeah, your team has an okay team fight. But that's not how you win a game. As a whole, that thing wasn't really your fault, but it was quite unfortunate. So you definitely need better wave management. You need better warding with your trinket. Pink ward habit is good. You need better map awareness for sure. Better positioning both in lane and macro. Positioning because you were sitting in this bush, letting your team walk away from you so that way you were isolated, or standing too far up in the wave, or even attacking the turret whenever there was no advantage and they could engage on you. You need to be better reading the map of when you can play aggressive and when you can't. This is tracking. Tracking can be tracking the jungler or tracking where they need to be. You also need to start setting up this wave to slow push to draw people so that way you can go and Baron. Right now, your team is not Baroning, which, I mean, I kind of understand. You guys are behind and there's no advantage. But that's a very important winning condition for every team. Every time you want to go mid, every time that like kind of strikes you where you don't know what to do, replace that thought with, how are we going to do Baron right now? And then how are we going to do Baron in 1 minute? The answer to that is you're going to get a pink ward over here and you're going to create pressure somewhere else, or you're going to eventually catch them with your vision control of this area. Those are really your answers. And if you can do that and you swap your focus from just, I'm going to eventually auto this turret down, to I'm going to get Baron, you're going to get this turret fucking anyways, and you're going to get the next turret, and you're going to win the next fight, and you're going to get this turret too because some Trainer's going to split push it down, and you're eventually going to win the game with, you know, your 3k gold lead that you generate from that. But you're not paying attention to that right now. And again, I don't fully blame you because you don't really want to split push into a Yasuo, so every time this wave starts pushing in, you're afraid. And I feel that. But that doesn't mean you can't manage this wave, because you've been in this wave before. You just don't push it properly. There are plenty of videos out there that will teach you how to do that, And I'm not going to go into it here because I just do it by feel. I don't have a true answer for you there. See, this is the exact kind of situation that you want to set up, where there are potentially three people bottom, including a jungler, right? Because in this context, they have a Sion, a Yasuo, and a Vi who all could be potentially doing Baron. However, you're trying to push this wave up, so they need to respond to this first. It's not hard to do Baron. You don't even need a full team. You need like one person who's fed and a tank, and 15 seconds uninterrupted. You're positioning really far up. You do not need to be doing this. Again, this is how you died before in the other fight. You, if you think you're going to harass them off, your entire laning phase you were waiting for the Nami to set you up, but now you need to be letting for like, and I was telling you that was bad, right? This is when you need to kind of wait for the Nami or the Sejuani to set you up. Because if you're in a position where the Scion can ult you, or the Vi can ult you, or you can get caught by whatever the Yasuo, then you're not going to be able to benefit your team. And look at the damage your team has, right? Right here, the damage is you and Xerath. That's flat out it. And who the fuck's going to kill, a Scion, right? That's going to take a while for Xerath to get through. It doesn't fucking matter if he has armor because you're Kogmaw. You're going to do magic damage anyways. So who's going to kill him? It's you. And you need to make sure you're alive for that. AD carry positioning is really important, and positioning like this is asking to die. If you want to trade like that, if you're looking for this type of, I'm going to create advantages by playing up, play Ezreal, because Ezreal can poke very easily and get out very easily. Doing it as Kog'Maw is asking to die. You don't have the same ability, you don't have anywhere near the same poke. You have kind of all-in potential. There's so much focus down here. You really just need to kind of let the Tryndamere come down here, swap lanes, make it so that way you guys can go and Baron. Yeah, your positioning there, you stayed in that ult the entire time. You tried to walk out, but you tried to walk out into their team. You were dead either way. Your positioning definitely needs work. Positioning your entire laning phase, I'll send you something on that. I actually do know. I've got a little rant on that too. Um, but also your warding and your Baron control. The Baron should never be up this long. Baron should be taken by like 25 minutes. And again, every time you're thinking about should I go mid, think about how are we going to Baron? What can I do to set up Baron? That's fine. Since they're just deciding to siege this, what you're doing is correct. You have to respond to this, and this is the best way you can respond to it, just by being there. Um, a lot of the times, my answer is the best way you respond to pressure is by creating pressure. Give them a situation where they choose to either keep sieging and lose something, or to leave and respond to your own pressure. So, for example, if Tryndamere was pushing this wave up, they would eventually have to leave this to respond to Tryndamere. It's simple. But you're not playing a champion that can do that, especially not against a team like this. So exactly what you did is exactly what you want to do. Just show up, be there. Your positioning could have been better though, and you lost the fight specifically because of your positioning. You probably should be switching to Blue Trinket at this point. Your team has very lackluster vision, and the best way you can check for Baron at this point is with the Blue Trinket. So I would very much so consider swapping to it. You've been level 9 for a while. Don't get it every game, but you do need to consider getting it. All right, right now you need to be pinging go in. This entire like let me point it out, right? So what's the advantage? What's the advantage here? This. For some reason Vi is top. The second you see this, you ping your team to go in because you win. You have your advantage. This is your condition. Sejuani just ults and it's over. You zone yourself out by chasing the Yasuo, and you end up losing this fight. Yeah. Yeah, you zone yourself out. And you still end up dying. For some reason, right? For some reason you ended up dying. So let's review this. Problem 1, right? Where are you standing again? Remember how you died over here? You died because you were isolated? You were playing too far back? Well, your tank line's up here, your support's over here, and you're further back. So yes, you can be dodging the stuff. Yes, that makes sense. But you don't need to be this far away to dodge stuff. You're also playing to the wrong side. You want to be playing to the side your team is on. Same thing as the support thing, right? Be playing down here. Yes, you don't want them to land their AoE, but their AoE is a Scion ult and those tornadoes that have already just gone out and are easy for you to dodge. Now watch what happens here. You choose instead of chasing the team fight straight down the lane to chase the Yasuo up. Because of this, you're even further behind, and now when the Yasuo wants to go in on you, right, there's no one to peel for you. Your peel is now only Xerath's E, Xerath's W, and your E. And if your argument is, oh, I didn't want to get Misfortune ulted, she's fucking ulted over here. Misfortune's stunned. You got Randuin's Hurricane, you've got Hurricane, so you want to be attacking multiple targets anyways, and you zone yourself out. You zone yourself out, and the Yasuo does his job here perfectly. He doesn't die, and the two carries waste their time with him. You're wasting your entire time. Look at what you could have killed over here. One auto. And instead you die to the Yasuo because you were playing too far back. And also, Vi gets a turret. And then after this, as this team, the red team, I would turn for Baron. Yeah, but your positioning needs a ton of work, both in lane, macro, and micro, and in team fighting. You let yourself get zoned out, and if you think that the Yasuo is going to kill you, and you know it's peeling for you, it's because you peel away from your team to chase a Yasuo. That's not what you want to do ever, especially as a Kogma. And now you're putting 3 people down here when Baron's up. This is a very bad situation. You didn't need to be there. Look at your macro positioning. This is a macro positioning thing. Why the fuck are you isolated again, right? What happens here? Pay attention. Why are you on this side of the fight? Are you going to the wave? There's no wave. Are you going to Dragon? Well, you're not because you're walking mid lane. Are you going to Baron? Your team's not here and you have no vision and the enemy team's not here. There's no reason to go to Baron. There's no reason for you to be in the lane at this instant. Where's your tank line? Your tank line's down here. Where's your support? Your support's over here. You see, you put yourself in this terrible situation because you're going to this minion wave for no reason. There are no minions here. And you know what? Your Sejuani was down here because you're not managing this wave. The Yasuo was already dead. Everyone was down here for an instant, and no one took this wave. So your tank decides to take this wave because someone's got to, right? And you lose this fight because you're not managing this wave and your macro positioning. And this is where your blue trinket comes in, right? And it's why you should have switched to it. Because now you have no way to check Baron, and if they get Baron, they just simply win the game. At this point, the gold deficit is so massive that if they just get it and sit on the cannon minion, it's done. However, you guys get it. That is awkward. Um, okay. Now let's look at this team fight in a couple of ways and see what happened, right? Might as well. I really don't like breaking down team fights. It's something that it's usually pretty obvious why something happened. So they all line up for all of your ults. Wow, he even got it with the Ludens. But everyone lines up for the Nami combo. Your tank line's in front. You're behind. Every one of your team's here. The Xerath was barraging from a distance, so everyone was there. You position around the wind wall. Position towards. Do you see where you're kiting? Kiting towards your team. This is a habit you need to develop. And you didn't have any sums for that because you had used them earlier because of your mispositioning. So think about that. Everything has an opportunity cost. Now their team doesn't have you, which is a massive percentage of your turret damage. You're still going to be able to get some, but you probably could have taken an inhib if it was still with you. This is all fine. You need to be going top side. Bottom is going to push in by itself. It's going to draw pressure. Going mid like this is kind of unnecessary. Trinimir's pushing top by himself though, so going mid is fine right now. There's a lot of pressure down here. You want to push one more wave and you want to rotate top with the Trinimir. Ping up towards on my way top. You want to go top now. Don't even stay for this. Be going top. This turret is uncontested. Why is it uncontested? Sion was bottom and everyone is mid. So that means that if they were rotating somewhere, it'd be going from bottom to mid. You're also going to have to respond to bottom soon because of this wave, which means that you're going to need to get your objective on the other side of the map as fast as possible. The mid lane objective is way back here, and you have no way to get to this easily. You're standing far back because the Tryndamere is split pushing, and in order to prevent this situation, you group with the Tryndamere. Now you have no vision over here. If you again had a blue trinket, you could check and see if anyone was rotating towards the Tryndamere, because if they did rotate towards the Tryndamere and you were able to push in this far, which you are pushing in this far right now, you could potentially go up all the way to this turret. You see only one person right now, which means that it's not very safe, and this matchup favors the Scion. So now it's too late. You can't get this objective, and now it's a 4v4 mid. And ultimately your team still tries to rotate up, but it's too late to really get anything, because now the enemy team can rotate up. And again, your macro positioning, you're way the fuck down here. The team fight's happening, and you're nowhere nearby. If you're going to position like this, just stay for the turret, because you just let your team lose that fight. Yeah, see, you got left like 3 autos. You could have taken this turret at least. I don't even know why you positioned that so far away there, but yeah, you're positioning, you're positioning, you're positioning, you're positioning, you're positioning. It's a mix of incredibly disrespectful and like super scared. I don't even know what it is. It's very inconsistent, but you need to play to your team. And that's exactly why you didn't want to push waves, right? 1v1 in the Yasuo. Let your team go to the Yasuo. There's everyone here. Stay on the Scion, which is your job. Um, Also, I don't think that you should have been getting Last Whisper this game. I know you saw that they were building a lot of armor, but Kogmaw with your build right now is going to be doing primarily magic damage. And the only person with a significant amount of armor or magic resist is the Scion. If you're trying to shred through the Scion, the best bet would have been for you to get a Wit's End. Beyond that, you probably could have gotten something like a Frozen Mallet so you can better stick on people and not die to the Yasuo. But there's no armor on the Janna, there's Tabi on the Misfortune, there's no armor on the Yasuo, and there's one armor item on the Vi. So the only thing you're getting a Last Whisper for is the Scion, which makes sense, but you are going to be doing primarily magic damage. You have one AD item, one, and it's Blade of the Rune King. It's plus 40 attack damage. So you're building around plus 40 attack damage. When your other item, this one, is building around your like 8% magic damage maximum health per auto attack. Right? Doesn't it make more sense to be building a Wit's End in this context? Instead of at least the Last Whisper, let alone building a Blade of the Rune King, which is okay if you're building on hit, right? Yeah, sure, that's fine. If they're health stacking, sure. They are. They got a Scion with a lot of health. But another way to cut through that is amping up your magic damage. So I think your build needs a little bit of consideration. But the primary problem this game was definitely positioning. Beyond that, your laning phase is pretty weak. I'm going to send you something on how to trade. It should be a little bit helpful. You need to learn how to slow push, and you need to learn how to group for Baron. You got lucky with your first Baron steal, but you should be trying to do Baron, especially as Kogmaw, by 25 minutes. You position aggressively, and you position really like you're AFKing for a while because you stayed in this bush. You need to pay attention to the minimap. You need to get better about warding. These wards are very defensive, and if you're worried about the ward dying, it means that it fucking spotted someone out, so put it down here. It's a good habit to be buying pink wards, but you chose to not ward your lane, and you also are, you're in your, lastly, kind of your build. Your rotations need work, but you were only in really position to rotate once this game because you don't set up for rotations. Your rotation was the thing I kept talking about with you going up top to the Tryndamere instead of staying mid lane. You need to show up to team fights better. This is awareness, and this is also pathing. You went fucking like around the middle of nowhere in order to path to this team fight because you were afraid. And you stayed so far away, and then you showed up to this team fight after everyone was already here and dead. So you really need to be more aware and show up to team fights when you can. I don't say show up to all of them when you can. The condition here was you already had wave priority, and you thought you knew what they were doing, and you saw that your team was able to come. Nami was here, Sejuani was here. It was a catch situation for your team. Over here, there was no reason for you not to follow your team up, because if they did dive you, you would have still been with your team. You don't want to isolate yourself like this situation against the Yasuo, or isolate yourself like in this bush. These are macro team fight positioning mistakes, but not macro positioning. Macro positioning is like why you were over here. This is the team fight that you lost over here was because you were not pushing in this wave whenever you were down here, and also because you were pushing towards this minion wave, which did not exist at that time. So guidelines. Watch the video I'm going to send you about trading. Practice that. You also need to get better about warding and tracking to know when you can play aggressive. I didn't go into all that at all this video because you have bigger problems. You need to be more focused around Baron. This means pinking Baron. You bought so many pink wards early, but then started to neglect them. You also need to get a blue trinket for it if your team does not have powerful vision. This game, your team lost a lot of vision because you had no pressure. You had no pressure partially because of you. You let every wave come to your turret. Every wave. So you never were in a position to respond. So you never were able to get deep vision in the river or deeper. So that way you never were able to track the Vi, which means that your team on any side of the map, right, couldn't play up. It's really important to be able to know when you can push and when to let it crash. Tracking and pressure. And you need to work on your team fighting. this is understanding what to kite to and what to be like kind of watching out for. In a team fight, there's generally only like 2 or 3 abilities you need to be super concerned about. It's like the crowd control shit. It's, did Vi ult yet? Did Yasuo tornado yet? Is Janna gonna whatever? You know, these little key things that you're watching for means that you don't have that many things to watch for. Then where do you kite? You kite to your turret or to your team. There was no turret here to kite to, so kite to your team. Because nothing's going to peel for you if you're just over here in the middle of nowhere. Minions don't fucking peel for you, and grass doesn't peel for you. So you need to make sure you're kiting to your team or a turret. You also need to make sure you're not contesting the Yasuo 1v1, especially as Kogmaw. And yeah, I think that's all I've really got for you right now. But if you improve your laning and improve your team fighting, those are very basic things that you need to work on. You will see some improvement. If you start to play towards rotations and Baron control, those are a lot more advanced for what you need to work on right now. You will see a large amount of improvement. Start with working on your lane, go into team fighting, start with working on creating advantages where you can create people that you have a 5 versus 4 situation, or understanding when you do not have that. And create rotations where you can go up to the Tryndamere, create Baron control plays. These are very important. All right. Hope some of that was helpful, and good luck out there.